Okay, so I was going to do a video today about practical shooting. I was going to talk about the IPSC, and I was going to talk about why I do it, what I enjoy about it, and everything else. I was just going to do like 5 questions about practical shooting that I would answer. Well, that's not going to happen today because I've had a response from Apple about the apps that I've been developing. In case you didn't know, I developed the 4IPSC apps, which is basically an app that illustrates all the rules of all the disciplines of the IPSC in a nice user-friendly format instead of just using the PDF of the rules books. So yeah, it's pretty much a book, but it's a book with multiple extra features, including the search functionality. I know PDFs can do search functionality, but this one does go a little bit further because I can add references to that search criteria. So if the word is literally not in the text, but refers to some form of that text, I can add that in, and even if you search that word, it'll take you to that text reference. So it's kind of more dynamic. There's also other features, like there's a glossary tooltip, which basically allows you to tap on that glossary tool, or term, sorry, not tool, and you're able to look at that term straight away without having to go to the glossary section. Another nice thing is that your rules, any references to any rules, will allow you to instantly go to that rule instead of you having to search for that rule or go to that specific page for that rule. Those are the most basic functions of my app. Now, Google's completely fine with this. Android and everything, it's all been released. In fact, just now, as of 2 days ago, the free versions of my app have now got the glossary tooltips in them. So, well, hey, you now have glossary tooltips for free. You're only paying for the rules and having all the disciplines in one app. Apple's not having any, it's not giving me any dice because they believe that what I'm basically doing is an EPUB format book, which to a certain extent it could be. Unfortunately, EPUB format books do not have the functionality that I think the rules deserve, such as being able to quickly go into references, being able to check glossary terms, doing all these little extra bits, including, in fact, although it's being superseded in some way, the search function that I'm allowed to add little references that aren't even in the text itself. Now, I've got the ability to go against Apple and say this is incorrect and so on, but they keep finding little holes here and there, like minimum functionality of the app. And I'm thinking minimum functionality of the app is a bit presumptuous because a lot of the stuff that's happening in the app is in the background. You've got, see it this way, the EPUB, the PDF itself is 3 meg for a rule. Whether it's handgun, action air, rifle, my app is about 100 meg. So it's God knows how much bigger. And the reason it's so much bigger is because there's so much more references in the background that it's dealing with. The glossary tooltips, everything else. It's amalgamating quite a lot of information to make the user experience easier. And that's the point. I'm not recreating the rules. I'm not trying to make things easier. No, I am trying to make things easier. I mean, I'm not trying to redictate what's in the rules. I am dictating exactly what's already there. What I'm trying to do is make it easier for you to understand them by giving you all the resources you need in an experience that is learner-friendly. The PDF is not learner-friendly. In fact, it takes a lot of amateurs and a lot of people who are new to the sport a bit of a setback to go, oh, I have to read 50 pages of this and it's all text and I don't understand any of it. And the first 3 or 4 chapters don't even make sense to you because it's all about structure, criteria, and everything that you'd normally think about when it comes to understanding how a match, an IPSC match, is established and structured and put together. In fact, I think it's only chapters 8, 10, and 11 that are most important to begin with. Now, that's an opinion. All the chapters are important, but those are the first chapters I would normally give a beginner to look at. Other than the appendices, because they need to know what they want to shoot division-wise. But yeah, that's the issue I'm having right now with Apple. I'm not happy with it. It looks like I'm going to have to add crappy little tools and functions to make this app beefy, even though these functions I think are slightly irrelevant and silly, such as like hit factor calculator, which is basically a calculator which pre-calculates. It's basically a multiplier. It really is. It's just adding and multiplying. That's all this hit factor calculator does. I'm going to have to add that in. I'm probably going to have to add some other stuff like a joule calculator where you can calculate joule based on grain and velocity and everything else. These are little things that I've decided I'm going to have to do just to get Apple to be happy with the app, to say it's not a book anymore. It's got more than minimum functionality. And I find this really stupid and annoying, and it really gets on my nerves because I'm seeing so many apps on the Apple iTunes store where they are literally just books, where they literally have the most minimum functionality. There are like 50 different apps for tipping. I'm not saying fly tipping. I'm saying tipping as in a restaurant, tipping in restaurants, tipping people for deliveries, stuff like that. That's a simple calculator app. How is that allowed on the Apple Store? And my app, which is specific to IPSC practical shooting, is not fine. Why? It doesn't make sense. It seems like all they want to do is create more hoops for you to jump through. Meanwhile, Google's completely fine with it. I've had them released on Google for 3-4 months now. And every time I submit to Apple, I have to jump through hoops. I have to make sure that things are correctly formatted. I have to obviously reiterate that I don't have ads on the app. I don't have in-app purchases. I don't have any encryption that American Standards Agency needs to go through. So many different things that I have to recheck and re-go through. And it's really not a comfortable experience creating an app for Apple, unless you're creating an app that has already been approved. And that's one thing that's quite interesting, because I've had one of my apps approved on Apple. It was my paid version, the Range Officer app, which has all the features. And they said, yeah, that's fine, that goes ahead. Well, the other free ones, they have minimum functionality. They're basically books. And there was a weird one where apparently I was copycatting the IPCS. Does that sound familiar? Well, it didn't at first for me, because I've been creating an app based on the IPSC, not the IPCS. So that was an interesting one to rebut back at Apple, saying, can you even read? But yeah, it seems like the only way I'm able to fix this is to literally make my app more bloated. I'm just going to have to add bloat to it. I'm going to have to put a hip factor calculator in there. I'm going to have to add other tools in there, which are not really the basis of my app. So this rules app is probably going to end up being a companion app, which, to be honest, is not a bad thing, but it's not something I wanted to do now just to get it approved on Apple. So if you're watching this and you have an Apple iPhone and you've been waiting for my app to get out, I'm really sorry. I'm trying my best. I'm going through hoops. And you know what makes this worse? I'm paying $100 a year for Apple iTunes developer program. It's not specifically called that. I was just waffling that. The Apple developer program. I'm paying $100 a year. I'm also paying $30 pay as you go on Mac in the cloud. I know some of you know that it's complete rubbish sometimes. It works for me. To a certain extent, that is my cheapest option compared to buying a secondhand iMac Mini. I will get to a point where I will get an iMac Mini. In fact, I'm going to use the sales from these apps to get an iMac Mini. So don't think that I'm going to try and book myself a holiday, because I've already done that, regardless of this money. So yeah, that is my current status. That is what's going on right now. Hopefully, Apple can be compliant with me and let me have these apps released. I find amusing how they allowed my paid version to be released and not the free versions, and now they're actually rejecting the paid version. They're now actively rejecting any new builds of my paid version. So I can't update you. I can't give you what you want. I can't give you what I want you to have, and you've already paid for. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so that's my rant. Hopefully the next video will be about practical shooting. In fact, I'll try and record another video today about practical shooting. But yeah, if you're developing apps and you're developing for Apple and you have these problems, I feel for you. I really do. It is not easy. It is frustrating. It's been a month now that I've been trying to get my free apps on Apple, just on Apple. So we'll see what happens. yeah, we'll see what happens, and I'll give you an update. Yeah, I'm lost for words now. I've said everything I need to say. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, which was basically a rant. And as Callum normally says, I hope to see you soon. Okay, so as I was recording this video, I got a message from Apple saying that they approved one of my apps. One of them. It wasn't the paid version, it was one of the free versions, and it was the mini rifle version. I do not understand how they were happy to approve that one, but not approve the Action Air, the handgun, the rifle, or the shotgun, or the PCC one. I don't know what's going on. It really shows that there is some kind of standard that's being missed, skipped, or added. It just shows that this process is not very efficient, because obviously things are slipping through and things are obviously not. So I'm curious if all I have to do is just manically respond and appeal every time they have a go at me with minimum functionality, or this is basically a bug, or the copycat thing is ridiculous anyway, that one's already been appealed. Mini rifle's approved, guys, so if you shoot mini rifle and you want a free version on iOS, well, guess what? Apple's approved that, but everything else is not approved still, so we'll see what happens.